Reading through some of the articles about the Philippines made me come to a conclusion that most of the memorable moments of the Filipino history include capital punishment. Although I won't be talking about anything that might cause an outbreak for debate or discuss whether I am pro or con death penalty, I do want to share some fascinating facts about the death penalty in the Philippines. The pre-Spanish Filipinos did indeed practice it, but barely at all. The only times they would use it was for fines, flogging, and slavery. But since the people actually used slaves for work on their lands, instead of executing them, they would replace it with work. The Philippines had a club of pro-death penalty judges. That group was known as the Guillotine Club, which was founded about 20 years ago in 1995 by a judge from Quezon City named Maximian Aquisium. Also, the Catholic Church was once pro-death penalty. There was a time period where they would use the Catholic Church to campaign for the death penalty. During the Philippines Revolution, Manila Archbishop Bernardino Nazaleta openly called for the Philippine rebels to be exterminated by fine, sword, and wholesale executions. After being found guilty for the murder of Moises Padilla, the governor from 1949 to 1951, Rafael Lacson, was sentenced to the electric chair in 1954, but his death penalty was then reduced to life imprisonment because there weren't enough votes in the Supreme Court to sentence him to the electric chair. Out of all the countries in the world, the Philippines and the United States are the only two countries that have ever used the electric chair. The Philippines brought it in when they heard the United States began to use it in 1926. It was used until 1976, but in those 50 years, the electric chair took the lives of 86 death row prisoners. The Philippines used to have the world's largest population of death row prisoners at an estimate of 1,200 people. Most of these sentences were made by the president at the time, Gloria Arroyo. She also gave the Philippines the record of having conducted the biggest number of commutations in a single sitting anywhere in the world. The Philippines also made it legal to execute minors. There is this one story about a 16-year-old boy named Marshall Ama who led one of the biggest jail riots in the history, which ended with 9 dead inmates. The Supreme Court imposed the death penalty after he was found guilty for stabbing a man to death during the riot. Another story I read about was of this man named Eduardo Agbayani. On January 25th of 1999, he had a scheduled execution because he was convicted of raping his 3 daughters. Minutes before Agbayani got executed, Joseph Estrada, the president at the time, got a phone call from his spiritual advisor, Bishop Theodoro Bacani, informing him that Eduardo's 3 daughters were willing to forgive him. Estrada tried to call the prison officials to tell them to stop the execution, but the phone line was busy, so he couldn't get the call through. Once Estrada managed to connect with the officials at 3:12 p.m., Agbayani was already pronounced dead at the time of 3:11 p.m. Just by 1 minute, 60 seconds, this man could have lived.